righty then. We're going to see, continue on with the Duchess of York. The most important date circled in deepest blue on the royal calendar that year was a ball on Tuesday, 12th December, again to mark milestones in the lives of 4 generations of the House of Windsor. The Queen Mother, who had turned 90, Princess Margaret 60, Prince Anne 40, and Princess Andrew 30. The Queen's mother, in fact, was older than the house, which came in being 1970 after George V changed the family nature. Named from the Germanic Saxe-Coburg, here Goldberg Gotha to the very English Windsor during the Great War with his cousin, the Kaiser. If anyone doubted that Steve Wyatt had arrived on the royal scene, the invitation to this gathering of the Creme de la Creme was absolute clinching proof under the gilded ceilings of the Palace Picture Gallery. Hung with blue drapes and lit by a constellation of white starlight, nearly 800 guests were greeted by the sophisticated music strings of the gramophones. As the evening progressed, they gave way to the livelier beat of chants. A 6-piece band, which had played St. Andrew's 21st birthday, as well as Wyatt the Yours, brought Ronald and Sue, which they had dined at the Terrace Club, followed a reception at Everton and Busy and Belgrave Square, which Dublin was shown on the list of public engagements, meant that as far as Prince Andrew was concerned, hostilities had ceased in the South Atlantic. The wealthy chatted to Charles' chum, Lady Kanga, Tryon, and her husband, Anthony Jane Rosenberg, and Lady Jane follows Prince and Prince Michael, Mark, and Diane. Thatcher, the singer Cleo Lane, her musician husband, Johnny Dankworth, jockeys, William Carsons, and Rich Dunley, racing driver Jackie Stewart, with others selected from a fairly representative cross-section of British society. If Wyatt felt at ease with those around him, the feeling was not necessarily mutual. His senior courtier said he once as Wyatt approached him, offering his hand, announcing, "Hi, I'm Steve, Sarah's friend and guest." The word was already being passed around in tight-knit circle that Steve Wyatt was about to become persona non grata. At the palace, Oscars had learned the hard way, not trying to please at all the people all the time, and seemed to have picked the trait he did not give. A pledge gave that people thought about his father or his friendship with the Duchess of York. 3 nights after the Buckingham Palace ball, he had a bizarre fantasy party at Simmer House in South London. This time Sarah and Andrew were his guests. A report was filled to Scotland Yard and passed on to Buckingham Palace, revealed the former royal minder. It always happens like that on such occasions. Anything to let personal matters go through a channel for sensitive information. The protection of lives and property, which is a more practical concern, goes through another. Even as a party, the Wyatt problem was being discussed over a dinner table. A short walk from the palace, Steve Wyatt influence over Sarah had not only furrowed the brows of the establishment, it continued to arouse the interest of British intelligence. Now that Andrew, fourth in line of the throne, was clearly becoming just as big a buddy of the Texan as his wife, the repercussions of any scandals would reach right to the heart of the royal family. From the night on, eyes were to be kept on Steve Wyatt. On New Year's Eve, last official was listening into a highly personal conversation between the Princess of Wales and her special friend, Jane Gilby. Gilby is transpired and was speaking from the mobile phone in the car, which is parked in Labour near Oxford. The dialogue between them revealed just how precautious Sarah's position had become, speaking from very mansion, Sandringham House, which her sister-in-law was so lodged. Diane heard her confidence say that Sarah was desperate to get back in. The redhead, as Diane referred to Sarah, was being called a lame duck amongst the royals. The royals gathered downstairs. Carrying on. The other Elizabeth. He seemed to look upon Lee as a sort mother figure, rather like a Camille Parker Bowles was to his other brother. Until Sarah arrived in his life as one, no woman was closer to Prince Andrew's innermost thoughts than Elizabeth Noncon, the wife of his photographer guru. The year was the shoulder on which he had cried about Coo and Stark and several other girls who had slipped in and out of his royal world. He had been a regular visitor to the Newcomb's house at Bunkingsville, and Liz frequently called on him in the rooms at Buckingham Palace for an intimate chat over coffee. There was never anything going on between Andrew and Liz at the home of Liz and Jean Newcomb, where the royal guest was also present. Jean's wife established a rapport with the prince that amazed others around him. Liz was in all the ultimate confidant, continued her friend. She was someone he could tell everything to and did. I mean, Liz was always there for Andrew, and he could talk to her about the romance. Liz was always there for Andrew. He could talk to her about the romances that were going wrong and those that seemed to be going right. He felt that she understood him and his problems. Although she was not a great deal older than him, he seemed to look upon Liz as sort of mother figure, rather like Camilla Parker Bowles was to his elder brother. I always supposed that men in the prison need such a woman, because the queen was almost fully occupied in the role as mother to the nation. In any event, even if Liz had been a free woman, not the wife of his close chum, she was never Andrew's type. She is a large lady, very tall, and she gives the impression of being very dominating, although in reality she was a sweetie. Their friends believed, however, that Sarah saw Liz as a challenge to her position. She was certainly aware that Andrew had discussed her suitability with Liz Nocon, not only as a girlfriend, but on the delicate subject on which she might be a potential princess. This gave Liz great power, something that Sarah found particularly unacceptable. It is very intriguing in many ways because Liz and I have obviously been used to seeing Fergie as a very bouncy sort of girl, said the friend. She was great fun, but she was changed a lot after she and Andrew were married. This is not, after all, unusual. A woman in her position, especially, want to make sure that she was right in her husband and she wouldn't want any competition. It seemed to some of that Sarah about getting rid of a lot of Andrew friends in an unmerciful way, and she played a lot of double games. She got really close to Liz, then she pulled back only to rush over to her extravagant present. She couldn't get rid of Liz, even Andrew's passion for photography, but when Liz was very close to Andrew, she had always been popping in and out of the palace. And that they stopped. She and Andrew had been almost daily contact, and I know they shared a lot of secrets. At one stage, he was almost a lodger in Nicole's home. It was nice upper middle class home, nothing ungracious, but the princess was obviously very comfortable in it. He was there on a lot. Of course, all that had changed when he got married. It would have been quite wrong for it not to change. But in settling out to establish her position, Sarah definitely kept Andrew away from Liz. As much as possible, Sarah was in this difficult position of not being able to put her foot down totally. So we had, I called the orphanage West. Sarah would have Liz over to tea and give her all their gift presents, track suits, that sort of thing. Asked about his wife being closer to Andrew than any other woman up in the point of Sarah's arrival. And Sarah making an effort to end the friendship. Jean Nicole responded, I suppose there is truth in that. I suppose it's only a matter of how people observe it from outside. On the subject of Liz having access to Andrew's room at the palace, and Sarah came on the scene. Jean and I don't know if one had access to the palace in that regard. We certainly very, very friendly with Prince Andrew, still are. It goes both ways. He would come and see us. He was very much a part of the family. We enjoyed his company. He's just a nice man. He was, of course, who he was, but he a nice guy. He had no pretense. What is the kind nice to see? Sarah's fear that Liz Nocon knew too much about her husband from the secret he imparted to her. It was very much a one-one relationship, and she, like Jean, was excluded from it. I always maintained a sort of distance in those kind of activities between my wife and Prince Andrew, or whoever. I just don't want to know. Continue, if Jean that was the case, that Sarah must have found. But I never queried my wife in my discussions she had with the Prince Andrew, and likewise it not meant for me to be part of that. Like Liz was originally a La Fontaine, and said Liz's friend. She came from Jersey, but her mother moved to Canada when Liz's father died. There is money in her family, but like me, she was also been a friend spender. It was over the composition at home feature in Hello magazine that Liz's friend believed the Yorks and Nuckums finally fell out. Their Nuckums were hoping to obtain such some payment in recognition of their services, but they did not transpire. Gina especially that Nuckums moved to Canada shortly after entrance and Sarah helped to stage a surprise farewell dinner party for them. Gina returned to especially to help with Andrew's photography and to proceed that valuable film. Andrew, who had used a time-release exposure for shots in which he figured, knew that Buckingham Palace would never sanction such a project. Apparently, Liz wrote to Andrew, but the letter did not reach him. Liz followed it up, and the matter was discussed by Sarah and Andrew, but Liz heard nothing further. Asked about the final arrangements, Jean Nicole said, "I'm not familiar with that side of it." He insisted that there had been no falling out with the Yorks. His decision to move back to America had been based on several factors, including the recession. At the same time, Prince Andrew's Sarah's marriage seemed to be on the go, and they were quick and independent. They were on the way now. He said it was almost like there was no need for us to be around anymore. Not that we felt there was a real need for us to be around in Prince Andrew's role as in his advisors in any way, shape, or form. Jean conceded that his Liz relationship with Yost had cooled through after the marriage. It sort of tapered off, and I felt there was no need for me to be around in that capacity anymore. That closeness of his bachelor days was over, and we just felt it was time to move on. But there was no falling out. It was just another phase of life going on between groups of people. Presidents declared where he had experienced to receive some money from the Hello Project, Nocon, of whom the Queens grew very fond of since she learned her son depended on him. And his wife responded firmly that I won't discuss. Jean was admitted that presents he and his wife received were not gifts, but rather seemed sent to them on much occasion as birthdays. And at Christmas, it is the way royal family works, and Jean, they have the day-to-day list of people's birthday special events like wedding anniversaries. It seems to be an everyday activity. The first thing to do is sort out whose birthday is coming and then attend it. They're very good about that, so I don't call it guilt gifts. Matter of finances was just one of the problem areas Sarah encountered in her efforts to match up the Windsors, but like the famous East Front Facade of Buckingham Palace, which is a little more than a veneer masking the original 1847 stonework, she discovered that the illusions counted for more of that truth in so many faces of royal life. Her attempts to live up to place doctrine meant that she was forced to revert to similar tactics to disguise her real self. The resulting masquerade ensured that Sarah remained influencing extremely to many people outside her immediate, even after 4 years of the royal spotlight. Those who met on her formless walkabouts in city centuries came across the impression that they knew her really well, and that they may have been right. Ordinary people accepted her on the face value, and that they liked what they saw. She was spontaneous, refreshing, unpatronizing, and it was possible for her to be boring Princess Diana, which never had dared as Sarah did, to walk up to a crowd in North England and say, "I like coming here because people are so friendly, better than down south." Such unscripted remarks were instantly seized up and presented at Fergie's latest jab. The doctrine clearly stated that one should be diplomatic, socialist, non-commercial. These tribalities taught Sarah a lot of her priorities. I never worked about headaches or trivial alienness, not because it means so many dying people who don't think they are the slightest bit brave. She said, "It teaches me to grab life for every minute, every day." Her opinion on selfishness won over many people who came in contact with her. Charity work by April 1990, she was a patron of 12 organizations, including the Chemical Dependency Century, the Tate Gallery Foundation, and Sick Children's Trust, and presidents of 4 others. She puts in so much of her own free time for us that Peter Carter, director of the Modern Neon Disease Association, sending a handwritten note that when she was supposed to be on holiday dashing off of Corey Medical briefing when she's meant to be off duty awaiting the birth of her second baby. That tells you about her commitment. And when our research physical therapist demonstrated a new technique for us, it was on the Duchess's own back. Away from the spotlight, the Duchess made several private visits, which was not listed in the court circular to the Trinity Hospice, a refuge for people with terminal illness just around the corner from her previous home in Lavender Gardens. The Hope was not one of her official charities, but she helped at fundraising. Activities and made surprise visitor cheered up as patients. She was always a long chat with me and Miss Ellen Cashier. A 65-year-old patient, she takes the real rudiments of sign language to enable her to communicate with deaf people, whom she met at a charity function of her walkabouts. Much to the delight of the young deaf children, she learned to spell Father Christmas. It was precisely because of self-sacrificing quality that Sarah's apparent desire to enrich herself while doing her royal rounds puzzles so many people explain her greatest charity defect is also tied in one of the greatest virtues in the royal inside. She is intuitively a fairly kind and discerning person, but she generally does not understand the effect her behavior can have. Unless well-intentioned people, she is quite non-judgmental herself. Her philosophy is live and let live. If you're not harming one, do it. Enjoy yourself. She doesn't appreciate to what extent behavior that she regards as personal in fact because it's not malicious to be given by others and around her more than anything else that has got her into deep trouble. On paper, the lyrics were comfortably off Andrew allowance from the civil list more than doubled from 20,000 to 50,000 a year as soon as he married and stood to 250,000 a year in 1992. But 70% of this went towards the salaries of the private secretaries at Ky, lady-in-waiting, nanny, personal dresser, chauffeur, and butler. Andrew's service pay as lieutenant was 26,000. If the Yorks wanted anything within reason, they only had to ask. The item would be ordered from the appropriate store, and the account section would deal with the bills. Whenever they traveled abroad on royal tours, they returned Latham the expensive gift. 32,000 wedding presents, along with a fortune of perhaps 1,000,000 in 1986, some 6 pairs of silver presents with gold inlay worth of 14,000 a pair, which would have appreciated in value. The island's cave at Sunninghill Park's house was packed overflowing with 600 dinner plates in 8 different patterns, 24 antique silver served dishes at 50,000 to 8,000 each, 36 silver and glass condensed sets at 10,000 to 200, 1,000 crystal glasses from 10 each of some 300 German, French, and Swedish vases, costing up to 600 each. The bride had also received a heirloom jewelry valued 250,000. The centerpiece, in which was diamond tiara from the Queen, a gift worth 90,000. Anyone who thought this was surely enough did not understand Sarah. She thought she had earned none of it on her own merits. Everything her priorities matched their inspirations or show business friends rather than more limiting horizons of each world. She had never had any real money when she was growing up in Dumber Down Farm, nor was she mixing the free spending proverbial set. I am not well off, she said. I do not have any money of my own. To prove the point, she often asked top designers if she could wear their clothes in exchange for the prestige it would bring them. This was the biggest difficulty people faced in trying to understand Sarah's mood in commercial ventures. Readers who drew their impressions from the public prints were shown a distorted picture of her, and in the absence of anything to balance it, more or less accepted that what they were told. Once the killer bimbos of Fleet Street had decided she was a disaster, they took deliberate aim. Her so-called greed was only one area of attack. Piles of transparency from their public engagement was sifted through on light bulbs and then projected on the screens in search of the most suitable shot to illustrate some unflattering feature. Her willful dress sense, her latest hairstyle, her fluctuating weight, and Sarah rarely let them down. She simply does not know how to get out of a car without showing her thighs or her underwear. Sight, a leading killer bimbo. She must have seen the results, but she does it time and time again. Okay, she got great legs, the true self that Sarah desperately wanted people to admire. Charity in her household. To everyone else, she was unknown quiet. For one thing, comparatively few people had actually heard speak. That was also true of her two rivals for limelight. Diana and Anne considered the amount of time and space the media devoted to the royal family They were also extremely mute, viewers of spitting images. The Psycho puppet show were almost accustomed actors, lapping their accents than the hero in the real thing. The Queen's Christmas broadcast was one of the rare occasions when the nation could tune in and sure of hearing a monarch address. Addressing them in person, not the Queen's, not to speak, but she was the chatting people of state receptions, private audience in Buckingham Palace, and every away day visits on the royal train. Prince Charles, who actually quartered television to provocate his beliefs and architectural environment, was the exception. His voice and views were probably better known to the masses than any of the other royals. Sarah's televised utterness was few and far between. Meet her in person, the surrounding of her PDA at the palace. Even rarer still, Georgian Howells granted the opportunity for a toddler and made the most of it. To be honest, I went to the interview not expecting to like her, but I did like her. I wasn't expecting a big, bouncy personality like Lavador, but she was such a parallel less obstreperous than she was painted. She was quietly spoken and interested in the arts, nor the sort of person I expected at all. The big surprise is her voice is warmly infecting and admires me music quality. Like Dan, Sarah visited me halfway houses for recovering drug addicts, hotels for the homeless, and hospice for AIDS and cancer victims. The aliens were more than likely to cherish her latest holiday freebie, dubbed the Duchess of Doolittle. She increased her workload to 290 engagements. In the first 6 months of 1980, her image worried her so much she talked to Andrew about calling in public relations consultant. When she did appear on television in her own right, it was usually to promote her books and only to reinforce the notion she was self-seeking. She chose her friend Darren Park guest David Frost on TVM, the commercial breakfast channel, to plug publications in the Palace of Westminster rather than most. Terry Wogan, who went out in prime time, the state found BBC. For her children's books about Budgie the helicopter, she chose Sue Lawley, whom she had encountered during the days with her Durden Smith communication. The motive for writing the Budgie books, a series of 10 was originally planned, was to make her independent. She told friends some of that earnings would go to charity. She cannot live in Harris and Romford. Everyone thinks that because you are married to a member of the royal family, you were rich beforehand. Sarah discussed ideas for the books with Mort Jacqueline, her American attorney, come literary agent that she received her helicopter license in December 1987. Jack was intrigued. He happened to know the right people at Simon & Schuster. The U.S. Commandery acquired world rights to Budgie for its highly competitive children's books division. Simon & Schuster paid a report advance of $500,000 to buy the series, although the terms of the contract remained confidential. Once the publishers had recouped their investment through their cut of serial rights and royalties on sales, Sarah would receive a rest minus her agent's fees. I'm giving a percentage to charity, she said. I don't understand what the criticism comes from, but they are going to find fault because at the moment I am flavor of them all. The Budge experience would long remain engraved on memories of those who dealt with Sarah, and more particularly Buckingham Palace. During the months before the project worldwide publication date, for the first two books in October 1989, she was actually started writing the books at Casanovas, which she was pregnant with Beatrice. She would scribble on a notepad with a pencil during the week and read out the results to Andrew at weekends. I met the Duchess in person the summer before publication. Office at Buckingham Palace, and John Sargent, president of Simon & Schuster Children's Books Division in New York. The manuscript was already written, and my first was discuss plans for promotion in the States. I always liked very much. She was very down to earth. She's personable. No, she's personal, and we always had a very good relation. Others found it going more difficult, proving there was a different strokes for different folks. Sarah was flowing Madame Hillcutter for a Simon & Schuster conference. Said one who was present. She looked very smart in business suit, but it was rather stiff, formal kind of things where she was asked questions about the book. I thought she was very cagey in her answers. I got the impression from lips that were sealed, and she really ought to go back to the palace and get it checked out. The queen knew about the deal, but Sarah seemed terrified about the wrong thing. I'm going to stop there. Marvelous. Get a copy of your own at your local bookstore. Keep employed, especially those in London. Much love. Especially my favorite actors, actresses, Julia Roberts, Tinkerbell, and everybody else that's part of Notting Hill. Pride and Prejudice when they come over. Marvelous. Okay. And everybody else I think about that think the movie, and God knows. And there's so many favorites that I have in my collection other than the Avatar, Star Wars, Star Trek, stuff like that. Cubic Chaos, everybody. And just remember, when you're feeling down and you look all around, who do you turn to most that helps you rise from such despair, such loneliness feeling? You're looking at them. There's not a day or hour that doesn't go by I don't think of all of you. By the way, don't get all mushy on me. Those bright for that place of yours turning blush red. Golly. Interesting, is it not? James Dean all the fun. Darlings. Hope y'all watch your help. Tune in, stay tuned, be patient. Again, Jesus doesn't have a schedule or an appointment. Those you think that, like I said, I'll sit in this chair right here over here. You go right ahead and go up there and tell them you don't have time for them. Good luck. That's an example. Much loves right here at home. Don't forget Father's Day. God bless you and everybody else around the world. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound would save a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Would save a soldier like me. Interesting harmonics. I'll just do this at church, a front row opera ticket someday. Golly, much love to my producers out there who have yet to send me a card, not just Dolly Partons. Maybe I should get off your hind parts and learn to knock, with them nice little mobile station studios of yours. Obviously, Black Death, Silent, and Cool Water, and everybody else dying to ask this question. Interesting. Now you know how most country fingers feel after hearing this. You know, ones that want to do a duet. Oh, you know, thought you were alone in that one. That's humorous. I know more about most of you than you know of me. Ironic fairness, isn't it? Much love. Right here at home.